Week 5, English 431. I'm glad you all are hanging out with me. I'm glad you all are doing well. Sometimes when I don't hear anything, I assume that something might be going wrong. Please talk to me if you have any concerns, any questions, any ways I can help. I am willing to jump through fire for all of you. So a couple of things really quickly just about this week's stuff. I'm going to share my screen really quickly and then I'll come back at the end. Remember that everything is right here at our tentative schedule page, and you scan down, you'll notice that one of the things that is happening this week is that we start to look at an edited collection called Bad Ideas About Writing. Fascinating book that seems to encapsulate all of the common myths and misperceptions about writing, writers, the rules, standard English, and so on. Even things about what formal techniques and what digital technologies are useful. You know, we all have these kinds of common perceptions of what writing is and what writers are. And I think one of the big things that could be useful about spending a couple of weeks with this particular collection is that, this could affect the kinds of conversations that we have in writing workshops and in Writing Center tutorials. That is, we all carry these kinds of ideologies, these kinds of beliefs or myths or misperceptions to some degree, and it could influence the kind of work that you do, the questions that you ask or that someone asks of you, the attention that you pay to specific aspects of a draft, and so on. So what I'm hoping that you'll do then is read and annotate 4 short chapters from either section 1 or section 2. Well, let's just say both and, because you could have 2 in section 1 and 2 in section 2. Let's review what Bad Ideas About Writing really is. It's a big book with teeny tiny chapters, with chapters that are maybe 3 pages long, 4 pages long at most, and they're not written in a very scholarly style. That is, their goal is not to alienate readers, their goal is to attract readers, to attract that broader audience who could really benefit from learning about what rhetoric and composition and literacy scholars consider to be myths, right? So it's not important necessarily that we read all of the same ones in common. You should follow your bliss. You should go where you think your interests lie. Rhetoric is synonymous with empty speech. You can learn to write in general. That's an amazing one. Writing knowledge transfers easily. Writers are mythical, magical, and damaged. Sure, right? Only geniuses can be writers. Failure is not an option, and so on. So we're going to spend 1 week with these first 2 sections. Read 4, any ones that you find particularly useful. And then the next week, we will read selections out of this 3rd section, Bad Ideas About Style, Usage, and Grammar. And maybe I'll expand this into Bad Ideas About Writing Techniques just because it's short, right? So that is the idea there. What are we talking about then? In terms of our schedule, and I'll just go back there really quickly, let's remember where we are just in terms of our internships. So we've just talked about by Wednesday, please annotate 4 short chapters, and I'll see you in Perusall. I think that's going really well. This will be fun. Once again, this is one of those weeks where Thursday or Friday, you may not have an internship. Please check with your mentors about what seems to be going on with those students. Are there individual meetings? Is there a smaller group or a team, a cohort that's getting together to talk about some particular thing? Do you just want to huddle with your mentor and plan out or do some pedagogy, do some curricular work with that person? That would be great too. If there is truly nothing going on though, what I'd hope that you'd do is that you'd pick up on something that you wrote about in Perusall. That is one of those particular chapters in bad ideas about writing may have spurred your thinking about how you used to believe this particular myth, and maybe what finally shook you of it, what role you've already seen it playing in your internships, maybe the experiences that you had in your Writing Center tutorial. So if there is nothing truly going on in your internship, I would hope that what you would do is that you would, you know, think through in more depth one of the bad ideas that you annotated in Perusall, to say either about how this idea has affected your literate history in one way or another, or what role you think it could play in a writing workshop or tutorial. Final thing, I'm hoping that you all are working with and starting to think about this first paper. The paper that I've asked you to do is being tutored. I want you to be tutored. The experience of being tutored is a fascinating, empathetic experience in which you can place yourself in the role of a learner once again. And so imagine students coming with those same kinds of concerns to you, either as a tutor or a writing workshop leader in the future. So remember that the goal of the Being Tutored essay is just to narrate those experiences in different kinds of ways in a paper. What I've done is I've given you some, I'll just share my screen once again, I'm sorry. I've given you some directions here about the Being Tutored paper. And I'd love for you to narrate it over, 3 to 4 pages. Tell me what happened, literally what happened, and then connect it to 2 readings that we've had so far. That is, how does this illustrate or maybe even challenge some of the things that we've read so far in our class? This can be a really fun paper because of the narrative voice that you strike. You can say things like, there I was, waiting for the Zoom link to appear. My nerves rattled by the thought of sharing my writing for the first time. You can have fun with the level of narrative detail that you provide, the vividness of the experience. It certainly will be different to have it remote as opposed to face-to-face. But I'd be really interested to hear about the actual material conditions of how this Writing Center tutorial went through Zoom. So be thinking about that, and then thinking about, okay, so what does this show you about the writing tutorial, about tutoring, about being tutored, right? What connections can we make to the literature that we've read so far? And what would this suggest then in terms of your own tutoring or mentoring practices in the future? I love reading these papers. They're just so much fun. And I love just asking questions and response. You'll get the chance to revise this if you want to, but that's the thing. So I'm hoping that you're starting to think about that paper as well and scheduling an appointment with someone in the Writing Center. Okay. I've also made a video about this paper, and it's posted on our main page if you want more details about it. All right. Thanks.